Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. I'm kind of psyched about this one because I'm going to talk about what I think is the greatest live album ever made, and that is this album right here, Frampton Comes Alive. This is an original vinyl release from 1976. I played it so much on vinyl that I actually have two vinyl copies of it. That's how much I played this album back then. One of the copies on the inside gatefold shows the other four previous studio records, and the original version did not have that. So I played this album to death, and I still play it to death. I have so many versions of this album. Here is the digitally remastered on one CD, and we're going to talk about it later on. They came out with the 25th anniversary, which was a double CD, which was expanded. Not as good as the original. We're going to talk about that. So you're sitting there going, Frampton Comes Alive, really? This guy doesn't have a clue. Listen, you can see behind me, I love live albums. I have hundreds and hundreds of them. And probably my two favorite runner-ups would be these. The Who Live at Leeds, love it. Here's a vinyl version of it. Here is the original vinyl version of it with all the, can you see that? With all the paraphernalia that came inside. Then the original CD, deluxe edition with expanded tracks, and then the deluxe edition, 2 CD. So I love Live at Leeds. I got 4 or 5 different versions of it. The Stones are my favorite band. Here's Get Your Eyes Out, probably my runner-up favorite live album. Here's the original vinyl version, and here's the digitally remastered CD, and here is the box set with DVD and stuff like that. Love those albums. They're incredible. And I love tons of live albums. But no album, to me, really comes close as far as a live album goes to Frampton Comes Alive. So why is that? Making a live album is a very difficult thing. The greatest performers in the world have a lot of trouble sometimes coming up with a great live album. It's more than just a performance. It's more than just a band. It's more than just a collection of great songs. There's a magic that has to be there, and a lot of live albums don't have it. For me, a special quality of a great live album is you want to feel like you're there. And no live album ever makes you feel more like you're at a concert than Frampton Comes Alive. The audience is way up in the mix. You could hear them throughout the album. Not only in between songs where they really raised the roof off, and it's real, it's not produced in the studio. This was a live performance that was captured, a couple of them. But even in the quiet sections of the songs, you'll hear a woo and a yeah, and you feel like you're there. And so that's really, really cool. The band is on fire. Frampton had released 4 studio records at that time. A great debut called Wind to Change, Frampton's Camel, Something's Happening, and then the Frampton album. All of them, it was gaining success, but none of them were huge hits. The Frampton album, the 4th one, was starting to hit, success. But then when he did Frampton Comes Alive, it took off, obviously. But it deserves so. If you look at this track listing, how about that? It is the most perfectly sequenced live album ever. First of all, the album starts off with an introduction. Why doesn't every live album do that? It should. Get Your Eyes Out, the Stones album, has a great one where it repeats itself and it's kind of muddled and it's like, we're sorry for the delay. Please welcome the greatest rock and roll band in the world, the Rolling Stones, and you hear the audience live up. Frampton Comes Alive has a similar thing. It starts off with a muddy announcer. I think it's Bill Graham. And he goes, an honorary member of the San Francisco Society, Mr. Peter Frampton. And then the crowd lifts up. You already feel like you're there. A little thing like an introduction adds a lot to a live album. He kicks in with Something's Happening, which, interesting enough, on most live albums, you want to start off with the biggest bang. This album, it doesn't. Is a really good song. It's actually one of the weaker songs, I think, on the album. And it's kind of a slow burn song. I mean, it rocks, but it's not as explosive as a lot of the other tracks. So it's kind of an interesting way to open up this amazing live album. Then after that, you just feel like you're there. The audience lifts up. Frampton speaks. I love that. Get Your Eyes Out. Mick Jagger speaks throughout that album, and it lifts it up. And Frampton does the same thing throughout Frampton Comes Alive. He goes, Hello, San Francisco. We're going to do something funky now. This one's called Doobie Wah. And then he does Doobie Wah. And here's the mark of a great live album. Doobie Wah is a tremendous track. But instead of just going right into song, the band is jamming. The drummer, John Ciomos, he hits the bell of the ride. They start building up, and then they go into the song itself, maybe a minute into it. You know, Doobie Wah, everybody says it's wrong. It is so funky. I'm sorry. When you're done with this video, check it out and crank it. If your feet are not tapping, if you don't want to get up and boogie to Doobie Wah, I'm sorry. There's something wrong. After that, slows it down with the classic Show Me the Way. And then he speaks again. He goes, we're going to do some rock and roll. Here's something old, something like that. We're going to do some rock and roll. And he goes into It's a Plain Shame, a great version of that. Now what does he do on the live album? Side 2 on the original vinyl is the acoustic side. And he goes into All I Want to Be Is By Your Side. Again, he starts off playing like acoustic, some light background, and you hear the crowd going, woo, and yeah. And you feel it. The second acoustic track, which is Wind of Change, you actually hear fireworks. You know, they're shooting off fireworks, which in the 70s, unfortunately, used to happen at concerts. And you hear it, and you're like, whoa, whoa. You know, it's the atmosphere is electrifying in this album. Then he goes into Baby I Love Your Way. You know that. That's an all-time classic. Great, great track. And then I Want to Go to the Sun, which starts off with this piano intro. And the band slow burns into this really long song. What is it? Over 7 minutes long. But again, they're burning it. They're building up into it, and it really, really works. And the band kicks in. Now they go into the original side 3, Penny for Your Thoughts, which is just a little acoustic thing that he does. And then all of a sudden, the drums kick in, unaccompanied, bass drum, bump, 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 bump. I'll give you money. Oh my God, that could have been a good, powerful opener. It's maybe something you would have expected as the opener, but no. I'll Give You Money, an explosive track, which then goes into Shine On, a great version of that, which was a Humble Pie song. Of course, Frampton originally in Humble Pie does a great version of Shine On. Then they go into Jumpin' Jack Flash, which is one of the greatest cover versions of all time. Now, the Stones are my band. What makes a great cover version? Like Jimi Hendrix doing All Along the Watchtower? I'm not saying this is as good as that, but it's a similar idea. Peter Frampton is a jazz player. He's not a blues-oriented guitarist. Yeah, I know he did a blues album not that long ago, but he's not a blues guitarist. He's a jazz guitarist. You know, if you study his guitar playing, he plays jazzy licks and jazzy chords, and his solos are very jazzy. He has a tremendous Frampton style that, if you like Frampton, like I have all of his albums, if I heard a Peter Frampton solo, I know it's him. And it has like this jazz-oriented roots. And he's turned Jumpin' Jack Flash, what is it? Jumpin' Jack Flash is like 8 minutes long, basically. It's like a progressive rock, jazz, almost Mahavishnu orchestra kind of prog jazz thing, where in the middle of the song it breaks down, the band kicks into a whole nother aspect of it. They completely rewrite that song, and it's just awesome. You know, is it anything like the Stones version? No. That's what makes it a great cover. So Jumpin' Jack Flash is tremendous. And then the last two songs, which was originally on side 4, you got Lines on My Face, which I think is the greatest Frampton song ever, one of my favorite songs by anybody ever. And then, of course, the epic 15 minutes of Do You Feel Like We Do, which he released as the third single from this album. Do you know, back in 76, 77, the radio stations wouldn't play the edited 45 because the 15-minute version is so powerful. And even though it's 15 minutes long, if you get into it, it really doesn't get boring because of the crowd interaction. This is a monster album, the monster live album. Now, it's a live record. It was recorded live. Frampton tells the story that after, they were recording various shows. He wasn't sure what they were recording. When they came out of the San Francisco show in Winterland, they were like, God, I hope we got that one on tape, and they did. Here's a bootleg from around the same time. If I listen to this bootleg, it's the same thing. It's like they didn't do too much sweetening on this live album. It's just mixed so well. No live album ever makes you feel more like you're in this concert, except for maybe Humble Pie's Rockin' in the Fillmore, which Frampton is on also, one of the all-time great live albums. But this album is killer. What also makes this album killer and really special, it's the only live album I could think of where every damn song is better on this album than on those 4 studio records that I showed you. The definitive versions of every song is on this album. Better live than studio. Every damn version. And you can't say that about any other album that's live that I could think of. You know, the Who live at Leeds I love, but the original vinyl side 2, you know, I'm not always in the mood to hear like a 10 plus minute version of My Generation that does a lot of noodling and jamming. It's great when I'm in the mood. But, you know, it doesn't touch the original 45, nor does Magic Bus. I mean, they're great on Live at Leeds, but this album is definitive every damn song. The other thing that makes this album special is the sequencing. Here's the killer. This was not the original sequence of the concert. And the 25th anniversary version of this album, Frampton did something very cool to celebrate it. He resequenced it to the order of the concert and added a bunch of bonus tracks that were never on the original album. This is a really fun listen. But you know what? It's not as good as the original Frampton Comes Alive. Lines on My Face is the second song whenever he performs live. On the Frampton Comes Alive, it's the first encore. And you know what? It works better as the encore and to Do You Feel Like We Do. Jumpin' Jack Flash is the original encore. It's better, you know, I'd rather hear the encore of Lines on My Face, Do You Feel Like We Do. You know, the other extra songs, Nowhere's Too Good for My Baby, White Sugar, you know, Just the Time of Year is really good to have. But the original sequencing of Frampton Comes Alive is perfect, which goes to show you that a great live album is more than just a performance. It's more than just the recording. It's the sequencing. Very difficult thing to do, apparently, because I have hundreds of live albums and I love them, and I could do a whole show on why live albums are really cool. It's a great way to get into a band. But, you know, there's not that many live albums that are like where every song and you play it at any time. So anyway, that's my passion and feelings about Frampton Comes Alive. I'm a huge Frampton fan. I discovered him like most people in '76 with Frampton Comes Alive. I showed you the 2 vinyl versions before. Here's some clippings from back then. You know, Frampton finally made it big. He made the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. And unfortunately, they put him with a topless kind of picture. And that was the beginning of destroying his career, because Frampton is an amazing guitarist. And he became a pretty boy, and it kind of hurt his career. But here's, this was from Circus Magazine. Right before that, Something's Happened, A Tale of a Superstar Who Wasn't. This is before Frampton Comes Alive. And Frampton Saved by the Power of Love. This was all articles right before Frampton Comes Alive, before he made it. And here's a review from Winterland in 1975 from Rolling Stone magazine. Man, and Babe Ruth opened up. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Do yourself a favor. Keep an open mind. Go play Frampton Comes Alive. Play it loud. And play it from beginning to end. And you're going to say, yeah, this live album is unbelievable. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit subscribe. Tell your friends. Check out my other videos. And most importantly, stay well, and thanks for giving me a listen and a watch. Take care.